I believe sociology is a social science that studies human social behaviors by analyzing structural patterns, interactions, and conflicts in society. This science helps us understand how society functions. Specifically, through Durkheim's view, we can see that a lot of our social behaviors are influenced by social facts. Social facts are unspoken but real to everybody in society. Partaking action in these facts make you feel a sense of belonging to society, whereas going against it might be frowned upon on or seen as you not wanting to contribute to society. Things like Christmas, when we give each other gifts, or um, like if we're part of a certain rock group or something, we have to dress the part and play the part in order to be the part. And sometimes when we don't do that, we're kind of not complying to what society wants, and it kind of makes you stand out, and people might not understand but think that you're going against it when you're not sometimes, but it's just because you're doing something that's abnormal is why it's kind of seen that you're not following the crowd. Durkheim wanted to highlight that sociology is a science. Social interactions lay a foundation in which our society beliefs are based on. Because of this, they hold heavy influence within our society, helping us better perceive the functions of humanity. They also help us adapt and fit into our society by incorporating the makeup of our own identities to find our corresponding cliques. So basically, social interactions help us lay down our beliefs, lay down what kind of cliques we want to be a part of, what kind of traditions we want to take part in, and moving that forward, he wanted to really recognize that it's a science and should be measured in a certain way by it being like characteristics, interactions, and things that human people kind of do, because he wanted to focus on like the fact that we work off of moral facts. So I think that's pretty interesting that he made that he was able to really say something about the way we're analyzing things and take into account that we can't answer these human questions with math and sometimes and stuff, and like certain equations, it's kind of more like very mixed and intersectional and very fluid, so we have to take like these things that we go through and be able to measure that on somebody to understand where they are or how society is functioning. The two quotes that I used were both from the Rules of Sociology methods. The two that I used, one, he really makes me understand that, or makes the readers understand that depending on what role we're partaking in or what we are in society, we have these obligations to do these things. Like me being a sister, I have these obligations to kind of like look out for my siblings, because if I don't, I'm technically a bad sister, and if I do, I'm technically doing my job. And other things like being a citizen, like we have to use our rights and votes, exercising our citizen rights and stuff like that. Whereas when we don't, we're kind of looked bad upon because we're not necessarily partaking in what society does. And then the second quote he mentioned was about social facts and how these things are more like outside influences that just kind of mold people into the society that we are today. that being the interactions or certain beliefs that people hold and try to kind of like pass down to us and make us understand that, like, what our role in society is or our function in society. Yeah, I use these quotes to show how extreme social pressures can be and what real effect they have on our social development. They help shape our identities and understanding of life and to what our normal should look like. He makes us understand that we conform to these norms in order to feel a part of society, making it hard to see our true reality because it is always subjected by outside forces. He goes on to recognize that social facts are only facts because the majority of society accepts them and incorporates them into daily lives. So I really thought this was interesting because sometimes we think we make our own choices based on what we believe, but sometimes outside sources, it being school, it being like people we look up to, it being trends that we like, we mold ourselves into all these different ideas from the outside inward instead of working in out. So I thought that was very interesting because obviously we are social beings and we interact and react with everything. So I think it's crazy that like he was able to highlight the fact that these interactions, even if they're small, have a lot to do with our moral development and our like lifestyles and our personalities and the way that we perceive things. Because like I said, like people can be throwing us something out there and we don't necessarily agree with it, but because the majority does, we will too. Or just because we understand that it's something to fit in, we would do anything to fit in with our surroundings. So an interesting thing that actually we didn't talk about too much in class, but that I appreciate, and it made me kind of like see a bigger picture of things if things were more extreme, is the fact of like cults. I think cults are developed in extreme measures of social pressures and interactions, only because like you don't necessarily have to super agree with the cult. I forgot what cult it was, the ones that they all killed themselves like in 3 days because they were waiting for aliens to come get them. Point is, if like you are in a space that you feel very accepted, very like important, a part of, whatever your leader tells you to do, you will do it. That cult, I forgot what it is, what it's called, but basically that cult, that guy gathered that like hundreds and hundreds of people. He knew who he was gathering, and he made them feel at home. He made them feel heard. He made them feel like what he was doing was so acceptable and so right that people had to do what he was doing. And I just think that's crazy because obviously we understand these outside forces can only go so far, but it's crazy to think when you don't realize how far they've gone, how serious you can either cause damage to yourself or to somebody else. Like these cults, they specifically that cult, they killed themselves in order to travel with their leader to meet aliens or something, when they didn't even know if it was gonna work, if it was gonna be true, if the person that they were following was connected with these other human beings. It's just fascinating, and I think that's what true sociology is, like studying the fact that things happen not because of coincidence, but because there's so much makeup underneath every situation, every decision, every aspect, even the clothes that we wear, they're so influenced by outside things. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you.